The grainy image shows a hooded figure trudging through the darkness, carrying something heavy. At first, detectives couldn't believe what they were seeing, but when they zoomed in, the shape became horrifyingly clear. This single frame, captured in the middle of the Oregon wilderness, would unravel a murder mystery that had gripped the town for weeks. Lakeview, Oregon, a quiet, tight-knit community surrounded by dense pine forests and crystal-clear lakes. It's the kind of place where time moves slowly, where people wave from their porches, and where the loudest sound at night is the wind in the trees. But in the summer of 2019, that calm was broken in a way that would haunt its residents forever. The man at the center of it all was Michael Davis. Michael was 43 years old, an experienced outdoorsman, and a devoted father of 2 young children. Friends describe him as the kind of person who would shovel your driveway in the winter without asking, or drop off firewood on your porch just because he knew it was going to be a cold night. He loved the wilderness, and he knew the trails around Lakeview like the back of his hand. On July 12th, he told a friend he was heading out for a quick evening hike before dinner. It was something he did often, just a way to clear his mind. But that evening would be the last time anyone saw Michael alive. When Michael didn't return home, his friends assumed maybe he'd stayed out later than usual. But as the hours passed and his phone went straight to voicemail, a quiet dread began to spread. By morning, dozens of volunteers had gathered to search the dense woods. The search team found nothing at first. No footprints, no drop gear, no clear trail. But as they pushed deeper into the forest, they stumbled on something unsettling, a patch of disturbed ground, as if the earth had been recently turned over. Nearby, small droplets of blood dotted the leaves. Still, there was no sign of Michael. Detectives were brought in, combing every inch of the area, but without witnesses, without cell phone signals to trace, and without clear evidence of what had happened, the case began to stall. The forest seemed to have swallowed its secrets whole. And then, out of nowhere, the first real break walked into the sheriff's office. A local hunter named Tom Avery had heard about the disappearance and thought the police might want to look at something unusual he'd found. Tom was an avid outdoorsman, and like many hunters in the area, he used trail cameras, small, camouflage devices strapped to trees to capture images of wildlife. He handed over a stack of memory cards and said simply, "You might want to check these." Detectives started scrolling through the images. Deer in the early morning mist, a coyote prowling under the moonlight, and then one photograph stopped them cold. It was night. The timestamp was just hours after Michael had last been seen. The camera had captured a tall man, wearing a dark hoodie, walking along a remote trail. In his arms, he carried something large and heavy. The shape was limp, the outline disturbingly human. The more the detectives zoomed in, the more their stomachs turned. They were looking at their first real glimpse of what had happened to Michael Davis. Trail cameras are remarkable in their simplicity. They use motion sensors and infrared to detect movement, even in total darkness. They make no noise. They don't flash. To the suspect in the image, this camera might as well have been a knot in the bark of the tree. But to detectives, it was a silent witness, one that had been watching when no one else could. The footage did more than just show the man. By lining up timestamps from multiple trail cameras in the area, detectives could follow his path through the forest. Step by step, the images revealed where he'd been and where he was going. The path ended at a secluded area, not far from the disturbed patch of ground searchers had found days earlier. Beneath that earth lay Michael Davis. From there, it didn't take long to put a name to the hooded figure, Evan Cross. Evan was well known to local police, and not in a good way. He had a history of violent confrontations, and witnesses recalled that just days before Michael disappeared, the 2 men had been seen arguing outside a local store. A search warrant for Evan's property turned up damning evidence. Michael's backpack, a jacket stained with blood, and a shovel still caked in damp soil. The trail camera had done what no human could. It had placed Evan at the scene at the exact time, carrying what appeared to be Michael's body, and it had done it without ever making a sound. When the case went to trial, the prosecution called the footage their silent witness. Jurors watched frame by frame as the hooded figure appeared in the dark, carrying the unmistakable weight of human life. combined with the physical evidence, there was little left to doubt. It took the jury just hours to reach a verdict. Guilty of first-degree murder, Evan Cross was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. For Michael's family, the verdict brought justice, but not peace. They would never get back the father, the friend, the neighbor they had lost. Yet in the middle of their grief, they found some comfort in knowing the truth, in knowing that Michael's last moment hadn't been erased, that somewhere in the silence of the forest, a small camera had been watching, refusing to let his story disappear. And that's the thing about technology. Sometimes it's flashy, sometimes it's complicated, but sometimes all it takes to catch a killer is a hidden camera, a motion sensor, and a memory card. This wasn't the only time technology cracked a case. In another investigation, a smartwatch didn't just tell time. It told the exact moment a murder happened, down to the second. That story might be even stranger than this one.